Right here and show you why do I know what I'm talking about. I am not a doctor, we've discussed this, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a dietitian. I have no training other than life experience in all of this. When we moved to Germany in 2008, we were introduced to organic, what they call it bio. I was introduced to homeopathy and natural ways of doing things, and we were really healthy and great for 4 years. Then we moved back and we were reintroduced to the American diet, and every year I started putting on more and more weight. And I just got puffier, and I tried a lot of different things and ways to lose weight, and I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. And then I realized that it was the ingredients in the foods, that I was actually eating some of the same foods I was eating over there, but they're actually made different here. And there's different things that are going into them, and they were affecting me differently. So I decided to clean up my diet, which then Larry cleaned up his diet, and the kids cleaned up their diet, and we all are now, 3 years into being a lot healthier. So anything that you learn here today isn't me telling you that I have it figured out, because I don't. What diet works for me, and actually I don't do a diet, I call it, it's a lifestyle change for me. I'm not a vegetarian, I'm not a vegan, I'm not a anything. I just choose to eat certain things, and I listen to my body, I listen to the nutritional wisdom of my body. There are certain things that I won't eat, but that's a personal choice for me. There's certain things I'm allergic to. I'm allergic to dairy, I'm allergic to eggs. So for me, it doesn't work. For you, it might, and that's fine. I'm not telling you it's one way or the other. All I'm suggesting is that you think about the food that you're putting in your body and the choices that you're making, and obviously talk to your doctor because of your medications and all of these things that you might be on. So what I want to do here is show you the video first. So I started, there's this person, his name is Charlie Goldsmith, and he's known as a healer. He's in Australia. And he started a program back in January that I signed up for. It was a 1 month long program called My Good Habits. And it was about eating healthy, but it was also mind, body, and spirit. It talked a lot about your emotional health. They did things with tapping, and they did all different things to help your body. And during this, his father, who has Parkinson's, had some problems with it, and he kind of had to take a break in the middle of this live program that we were doing. We would every day get online together, and there would be live things with 1,000 people that were involved in this program. And so he decided to create this video and to share what he was experiencing with his dad and what clean eating did for him. So that's what I want to share with you. It's about 7 minutes long.
I think about 2 years ago, my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and he's, so he's 86 now. At the time, he would have been about 84.
So how would you get up?
Well, if I do this,
Do that, yeah.
that's very hard.
Okay, so what's that? Is that hurting your back or what? What's
back?
Yeah. Okay, sit down, that's okay, because you see what the problem is? You've got 1 foot that's
This foot's getting much
more pressure on. So swing your legs around further so they share the load.
As you all know, I'm very big on people being healthy. I said, well, why don't we clean up his diet? But I have 8 brothers and sisters, and it's, to get something like that to happen, really we need everyone on board. And I, at the time, was told, why would we take away the little pleasures he has left in his last years? Why would we take them away? And that Parkinson's disease isn't affected by diet, and it has nothing to do with it. And so I kind of didn't get much of a choice.
So get your momentum. You can do it with your arms as well, so you don't need to go without it, because the bed's quite low. So your feet are right back, and then put your arms on the edge of the bed and go get your momentum. Too far, this one.
The thing about Parkinson's disease, it will take away over time as you go through the different stages your ability to function, but It won't kill you. So you can end up, well, by the time you hit stage 5 Parkinson's, you're in a wheelchair and you're incapacitated and psychosis and things like that. So it's a pretty difficult ending. It's not pretty. And so after I tried to get him to be healthy, I sort of was like, okay, well, I can't beat this. And he was on very powerful medications that were definitely helping mask some of the symptoms. But in the last 2 years, he still declined quite a lot. And then he started to have complications with medication recently, and they've had to pull him off it. And what that's done is that's showing where he's really at, which is essentially a very slow shuffle. He's come off the medication, which has put the family into a state of, uh-oh, like this is it. And my dad really only a week ago started calling his friends to say goodbye, not because he was about to die. I mean, he is nearly 87, so, you know, obviously we don't know when that's going to be, but he was doing it because he doesn't know when he's not going to be able to communicate anymore. Anyway, so a week ago, he said to me for the first time, I'm really scared. Like, I've read about, like, he was sort of in denial for a long time, and I think the medications were helping him be in denial about, you know, how serious his condition was. When he came off it, he, you know, became acutely aware, and he said, I'm scared, like, this is about to be really bad. And it's already really bad, but it's about to be, like, completely incapacitated. And so I said to him, by eating really well, what if we can make it slow down? What if instead of being at stage 5 in 6 months, it could be 12 months, or what if it could be 5 years? I don't really know what's possible, but what is possible? And, you know, the general consensus from the medical world is diet has nothing to do with Parkinson's, so it's a very difficult argument I was putting forward. But that's what I said, Dad, can you come and stay with me for a week, which the last Sunday he came to stay with me. I said, I will feed you every meal. You're not allowed to eat anything that I don't feed you. We went through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I got up, went for, so 4 days. I got up and went for a run. I got home and I walked inside and my dad was standing there and he said, Charlie, I feel a lot better. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, my stomach firstly feels a lot better. He's had a lot of problem with his digestion and ease of going to the toilet and things. And he said, I feel a lot better. And I was like, oh, that's great, Dad. Well, that's what happens when you eat well. And he said, but my walking is better too. And I was like, show me. And my dad, for the first time in 2 years, walked normally. A little bit still bent in the neck, but walked normally. And I was like, whoa. So then I was like, can you show me if you can sit down on the couch and get up again? And he went and sat on the couch and got up without effort. This is after 4 days. So lean right back, so like you've sat down. Okay, now stand up. That's a big difference, Dad. My dad can walk like before his diagnosis of Parkinson's 2 years ago. This is meant to be incurable and irreversible. If he can reverse the signs of Parkinson's, and now it's been solid change, I don't want to say this gently. If you eat food that isn't good for you, you're not giving yourself love by giving yourself those 3 minutes of a nice flavour in your mouth. You are hurting yourself. It is self-destructive. And the results can be frightening. And this is how I sold it to Dad. Even if we can improve you by 10%, even if we can just do something, just eat well. And now he's walking. So that's the point of eating well. It's like you eat good food and your body will respond. It's on you. It's not on anyone else. And equally, it's my dad's fault. He's eaten unhealthy food my entire life. If you are feeling attacked because I say eating healthy could save your life, but you don't feel attacked when you put poison in your mouth, you've really got to think about that. I'm telling you to take care of yourself so you can feel good. You are acting in a way that's self-destructive. So it's not me attacking you. You're doing that stuff to yourself and you're trying, and then you're like, oh my God, I've got to defend this. This guy's crazy. He just wants to take everything away from me, as if a little bit of this hurts me. Well, you'll find out, and hopefully it doesn't. I'm certainly not wishing it upon everyone. I know there's people that live to 100 smoking cigarettes and all sorts of stuff. Some people just seem to keep on trucking, but the question is, are you one of them? You don't get to find out that till the end. And a lot of people are sick.
Is this a YouTube? Is this a YouTube?
No, that wasn't
Are you in
YouTube.
time? Oh.
Let me back to this real quick. So no, so this was part of the program that I signed up for, and that was, so everything on the program was done through Facebook Live, because it was in Australia, and so there was different times, because it was done, 1,000 people were around the world who were a part of this. So we had a Facebook, like a private Facebook page, and then he has there's a website you buy into that, has like all of the recipes and the food and then different, things and stuff that he does. But this was not something that was planned. It was something that happened in the midst of that program, and he decided to film it and report on it. And so I thought it's pretty compelling. It's one of those where, it shows what good eating can do. I've experienced it. Landon, my son, who is on the autism spectrum, in January started a new, we call it a nutrition plan. So he has a lot of cognitive issues and behavioral issues. And through testing, we found out that he had candida, or a yeast infection in his intestines. When you have a yeast infection in your intestines, it sets off different chemicals and stuff in your brain, and it makes how you behave and stuff different. So we put him on a special diet that basically it's anything that would starve the yeast is what you do. And so that means no sugar, and that includes even natural sugar. So there was no fruit. There was nothing that had fermentation to it. There's no anything with yeast, so no breads or anything like that. Trying to do that with a 12-year-old, and then he's out of your care for a lot of hours of the day at school. But within that first month, his teachers all noticed a difference in his behaviors and his clarity, and he told me he noticed a difference. He says he can sit longer, he can pay better attention, and he's choosing now to eat these things, and he sees the difference. If he eats a piece of pizza, and he's like, I don't know if you know the little minions, right? You got the yellow minion, and then there was the movie where they turn into the crazy purple minion. That's sort of what happens to Landon when he eats a cookie or a cupcake or a pizza. It just sets him off, and he becomes a whole different person. So again, this is why I'm saying I learned this stuff from personal experience of what I do. So one of the things that you'll see a lot in food that you don't realize or that you really just kind of skim over are the natural flavors versus the artificial flavors. And this is something that plays a lot with your brain. If something is a natural flavor, so it's, I can't be close to the computer. They're chemicals. There's nothing real about it. The word natural tricks a lot of people. There's a lot of advertising in this food that they use these words that are tricky. And what it does is it tricks your brain into thinking it is the natural food, but no part of it is natural whatsoever. Like if it's a natural flavor and it's something with a strawberry, there's literally no part of a strawberry in it. It's chemicals that are put together to make it smell like a strawberry, to make it taste like a strawberry, but there's no sign of strawberry in it. And then artificial flavors are just, again, all completely, but it's even tasting like something that you've never tasted before and completely false. And so this is where nutritional wisdom comes in, and this is where the Dorito effect comes in. And so nutritional wisdom is your body craves stuff, right? When you're thirsty, right, it's because your body wants water. If you are craving something salty, most likely you need something salty in your body. And so you go for something. Oftentimes, unfortunately, we go for potato chips, but there are other foods that you could be choosing to go for. So your body is really smart, and it knows what it needs. But we have tricked our brains for so long that we either don't listen to it or we give it the wrong stuff. And so we've become really good at making bad food taste good and good food taste bad. And so what happens is if you have a yogurt that is a blueberry flavored yogurt, and maybe your body is craving these blueberries. Well, it's not really a blueberry yogurt, right? It's got this natural flavor of blueberry. So your body is ingesting it, it's eating it, but it's not actually getting the nutrients of a real blueberry. Instead, it's tricking it. So your body might be actually craving that antioxidant that a real fresh blueberry has, but you're not getting it. So now your body's going, well, I'm tasting it, but I'm not getting that nutrient, I'm not getting that relief that I needed, that I wanted from it, so maybe I need more of it. And so you go and you eat more of it, or you go and you search from it from someplace else, and now your body doesn't know what's up. I'm eating all this blueberry stuff. I've had a blueberry muffin or a blueberry waffle, but I'm still not feeling like I've gotten my fill of what it was that I wanted. And it's because you never actually ate a blueberry. And a lot of people who are in a hurry or on the go, that's what they do. And so you just start getting all of these things and your brain just completely tricks out. And so that's what this Dorito effect is. The Dorito is a funny story of how it was invented, because there was a guy who worked for Lay's potato chips who happened to go down south with his family back in the 40s and had his first ever plain tortilla chip and thought it was a great next thing. It was something different than a potato chip. Brought it back, created it, nobody liked it. Well, then in a meeting one time, he was meeting with one of the guys from McCormick Spices, and he's like, I can do something about that. And so together, they put together a plain tortilla and taco seasoning and mixed it all up, and they came up with a Dorito. Everybody loved the Dorito because they thought they were eating a taco in this tiny little thing, and so they got all of this pleasure off of this one little thing. And we all know what Doritos do to our fingers, and we can imagine what it does to our bellies. And so that's kind of how the idea of where all of these spices and these herbs, supposedly, the idea of spices and herbs came into. We continue to just trick our brains into thinking that it's food, but it's really not the food that we need. And so when we continue to trick ourselves over this, and our brains get really confused and our bodies start to get confused, they start to break down, and they're not working the right way because we're not giving ourselves the right stuff. And so how can we do this? Because I can tell you this stuff all day long, but you're like, how does this affect me? How can I make this happen in my own kitchen? Well, one of the things we can do is we talk about cooking with herbs and spices and cooking real food. Real food is important. We don't want to just keep buying processed stuff. When you shop at a grocery store, you really need to skip the middle aisles and shop the perimeter. If you do go in the middle aisles, it's for things like maybe frozen vegetables and fruit. Those are, okay, or yeah, that's about the only thing I can think of why you would go in the middle. Like toilet paper, stuff like that, but otherwise probably not. But when you're buying as well these herbs and spices to flavor your food, it's also important to do these things organically. And the reason that you do, especially herbs and spices, and this is expensive, there's no doubt about it, but healthcare is expensive too, so you got to keep this in mind. You're paying the price one way or the other. So whether you pay the price at the grocery store, you pay it at Dr. Bill's, or in your own health and suffering, you're still paying. But when you have your spices and your herbs and you have them in these little jars, they're really concentrated, right? So if you go to the dollar store and you buy, some paprika or basil or something that who knows where it came from, what country it came from, who had laws of who knows what, not only are you eating chemicals, but you're also eating concentrated chemicals. They've been dried up and shriveled up, and so there's actually a lot of chemicals in this tiny little body. So when it comes to picking what to buy organically, herbs and spices are very important to be getting organically. And the same goes with tea. So for however many of you are tea drinkers, teas are grown, they're known to be grown across the country, especially in China, where they use sludge and yuck for the water that they're putting on the plants and stuff, and the pesticides and the chemicals that they do to grow it. And now they're drying it and they're concentrating it in this tiny little bag that you soak in 8 ounces of water and then you drink it. It's not a really good thing to be doing for yourself. So again, it's worth spending a little bit extra money. Target is a great place to go for organic teas. You can get a box, it's maybe 50 cents or $1 more than what you would get for another tea, but you know that you're getting something healthier for that little bit. And knowing that it's that concentrated, it's worth, for me at least, I think it's worth that extra $1. And we talked about moving on to grain-fed versus grass-fed, and this is, again, I know a lot of this stuff comes down to pricing, because if you ever price grass-fed beef versus grain-fed beef, there's a huge difference in price. But how much beef do you really need to be eating is also part of the question of what your choices are that you make of, because red meat is, you know, where a lot of the toxins and stuff are stored, because you are what you eat, but that applies to the cows too. So depending on what the cows eat, if the cows are eating, you know, this vegetation that is out in a nice grassy field and it's natural and they're eating the bugs that go with it and they're getting all of the stuff, they're going to be healthier as well. And so you're getting a healthier cut of meat. If you're going to be eating beef that's been caged up, that's been fed different GMO type grains, and cows' stomachs aren't meant to eat grains. So then their stomachs aren't working properly and their stomachs are releasing different enzymes and such to try to break down stuff that it's not meant to break down. And all of that gets stored in the fat and in the muscle of the meat that you're eating, and now you're eating the toxins of that food, and that's not helping you as well. So that's one of the reasons why you would choose grass-fed over grain-fed and why you're going to be spending a little bit more money. And then you'll see too, there's different health reasons of monounsaturated fats, the omega-6s, the omega-3s. It's actually a healthier cut of meat because the cow itself is healthier. And the same goes with where the dairy and stuff comes from, because again, what you feed these animals is what they're giving back to you, and that goes with the eggs that I briefly talked about earlier, of why it matters what the chickens eat when it comes. So if you read on your egg cartons that they're, you know, pasture raised or they're vegetarian, they have vegetarian feed, it matters because what they're eating is going into those eggs, which again, you're digesting. So do you really know what you're eating and why there's a difference? This is ridiculous. This is part of the argument that you'll hear with people who eat food of between like just the US and the UK. We as a society, and that's why when you have maps of where the food comes from in the United States, the chemicals and the additives and the stuff that we approve, the people who are approving these and telling you that they're safe, they're policing themselves. These government agencies can't keep up with what's going on, and so they leave it up to the companies to do the right thing. I'm telling you, money talks, and they're not all doing the right thing. So if you have French fries from McDonald's, look at the difference. Everything in red is what we include in the US that they don't have in the fries in the UK. So things, you know, like soybean oil and hydrogenated soybean oil, and there's that natural beef flavor. Really, why do French fries, why do potatoes need to taste like beef? That's really a disturbing thought to me. And it's not natural, because I can guarantee you there's not a real piece of cow anywhere in these French fries. So these are things that you probably don't even realize that you're doing and eating. Heinz ketchup, there's high fructose corn syrup and corn syrup, because apparently you need 2 corn syrups, I don't know why. And then of course natural flavoring, because, right, there wouldn't actually be a tomato in ketchup, which it's tricking your brain. They want you to think there's a real tomato in there, but there's not. It's a bunch of chemicals made to taste like one. Where in the UK, they don't even have the high fructose corn syrup in theirs. Or in the oatmeal, if you look at the difference of, I mean, artificial red, I didn't even go into artificial colorings because that's an hour-long topic in itself of how dangerous artificial colors and stuff can be. Like if you look at it, if you go to the store next time to buy pickles, how many of the pickles have food coloring in them? They have the blue dyes and the yellow dyes. They're pickles, they're green. We don't need to be adding food coloring to them, but we do because in the processing of them all, they lose that beautiful color and then they don't look as attractive, but you don't need those food colorings.
And they probably listed fruit-colored fruit pieces. Flavored and colored fruit pieces.
Yeah. Why do they need to be flavored and colored? If they're fruit, they should just be fruit, right? And good, but they have to enhance them. So these are products that you're eating. So when you're reading your food labels on your boxes and you're looking at stuff, it's more than just looking at how much sugar and calories are in these things. There's a lot of stuff to consider, and it's overwhelming, and you'll leave here and then you're going to go to the grocery store and I put everything back on the shelf and you're going to sit there and go, what can I possibly eat? I'm so hungry. Well, go make a salad or go eat an actual apple or an actual strawberry or go get some blueberries or something. I mean, it's hard. I'm not saying that this is easy. There are times when it's a true struggle. We're going on vacation and it's really hard for us to come up with food to eat. But I kind of look at the 80-20% where I try to do my best 80% of the time. So 20% of the time when I'm not home or I can't do something, I will eat whatever. And I'll try to still make the best choices that I can. But my body is healthy enough that if I do eat something that's not the best for me, I don't need to worry about it because I've gotten it right all of the other times, and my body can process it. My liver can detox what it needs to. My kidneys can flush out what it needs to because I'm healthy already. So don't completely panic over and think there's nothing that you can eat or how am I ever going to do this. And you can just pick one thing to start with too. You can just say, I'm going to focus on foods that don't have, artificial colorings and flavorings. I can't afford organic right now, I'm not going to do that, but I can pick one thing. So it's great, pick that one thing and start with something, and then you'll build into it. That becomes your, for those of you who were last week, that'll start to become your familiar, and you'll move on, and you won't even think about it, and you won't have to read some of the labels for that part of the product anymore. So you have your list of products that I gave you for Panera and Whole Foods of what's on their no-no list, which is really nice, so it makes the shopping easier. So if you know you want to make this change, there are certain places that you can go that you don't have to worry when you go to Whole Foods. There's nothing in that store that will have high fructose corn syrup. So you don't even have to worry about looking at the label for it. They've done it for you. You don't have to worry about looking at the label for TBHQ, which is another preservative and a chemical that's in there. So there's some key things that you'll never find. Now I can tell you for certain, Whole Foods still has stuff that's not healthy, and that's stuff that maybe isn't the best, to be eating. They have middle sections, right? So there's still highly processed food that's there. However, again, it's that start. It's that first step in the right direction of what can you do to help yourself. And a lot of it is that nutritional wisdom of what do you feel in your body. So my mom, who gave me a hard time for a long time about all this stuff, and she would get upset when we'd have family outings, and it's like, okay, well, what can I cook for your family? What will your family eat? I am not spending $90 on an organic turkey for Thanksgiving, so are you going to eat a Butterball? And she would get all upset with me about this stuff, and sometimes I would just bring my own food. I'm like, oh, don't worry about it, I'll bring my gluten-free pasta, and I'll just make that on the side with your pasta sauce or whatever, and we'd come up with a compromise. But my mom suffered terribly from IBS, and she has ulcers, and she was a little bit overweight and was struggling with that last bit of weight that she couldn't lose and was really frustrated. Well, one day her doctor told her if she cut out gluten and dairy and soy, that maybe she'd feel better. That white coat the doctor was wearing made all the difference in the world to my mom. So she called me, she's like, I feel so much better. Oh my goodness, do you know what happened? And she's like, I've lost 10 pounds so far. I'm like, oh really, Mom, that's great. Like, did you need some ideas of what to cook? And, oh, no, I got it over. I want you to come for dinner. And, well, I hope it's okay because there's going to be nothing with soy or anything in our food, and there's nothing with this or that. And I'm like, good, then I can actually eat your food, and I don't have to worry about it. And so now all of her IBS issues are gone, her ulcer stuff has gone away, half of her medications are gone. And this is all just in the last year that she's done this. And now she tells all of her friends about her amazing daughter who knows all this stuff. And I'm like, really? Okay, that's good to know because I wasn't so amazing before that, but sure. So it's interesting when some of this stuff starts to kick in. I want to just quickly go through a couple of things that are on these labels that you don't necessarily hear all the time when it comes to a lot of these buzzwords. One of them is maltodextrin. This is one I still need to teach my mom about. It's a thickener and it's a preservative that's in these foods, in like all of the processed type foods. And it's used in things like puddings and gelatin sauces, different salad dressings, baked good, potato chips, all of this stuff. And it is really, really bad for you. And I tell you, you will find it in so many products. What does it do? It spikes your blood sugar. It changes the composition of your gut bacteria. Your gut biome is something that, again, can be a whole other class that we could talk about. Your gut biome is the key part to your immune system. If your gut isn't healthy, you're not healthy. This is where a lot of things happen, is in your gut. And when you get leaky gut, you've probably heard of that term, leaky gut. It's kind of getting like holes in your intestines, where then these toxins that you should be flushing out, that your intestines should be taking care of for you, it's now leaking into your bloodstream. And when it does that, it causes different types of behavioral issues. It causes brain fog. It causes fatigue. So many different things that it can do. And this is one of the key products that does this to your belly. This maltodextrin is very dangerous, and it causes allergic reactions. And then it has absolutely no nutritional value. There's really no need. There's other things that you can do. And so off to the side there, you'll see what can you do in place of it. So if you look for products that are stevia, which that's a whole other talk of what these products are. Stevia is very good, however, there are different kinds of stevia. Not all stevia is created equal. So you do need to pay attention to where the stevia is coming from, whether it's a GMO or not. And I guess if people know what GMOs are, you understand what those...
Genetically modified.
Yeah, but do you know what that means?
Yeah, there's stuff put into it or done to it that isn't good for you.
Right, well, so the basic idea is, and because here's what the difference between that and a hybrid that people don't understand. You have pluots, right? So a pluot is a plum and an apricot put together. So the DNA are both a fruit, and so that's why it's considered a hybrid. A GMO is when you take the DNA from two completely different substances. So I worked in, again, what you don't know at the time. When I was in college, I worked in the research greenhouses at Michigan State. And the government was developing a sugar beet that they took the sugar beet and then they spliced in the DNA from a firefly that lit up the butt of the firefly and put it into the sugar beet. So what would happen is they would plant fields of it, and when they did, then they could fly specially designed planes over it that would light up. And they could make markers in the air for different things that they needed to do in other countries and stuff, and so that they could see where they were at and what things were happening. And who knows, actually, those are only the things I knew. I don't know what else they were developing at the time. But that was a firefly being put into a sweet potato, or a sugar beet. Sugar beets are all of the things that we derive our sugar from, that goes into a lot of our fruits. Now, who's to say that somewhere along the way you're not eating that? I don't know where that thing was planted and where that seed flew, what bird might have eaten it and dropped it somewhere. So when you eat sugar, sometimes you might be eating the lighting up of a firefly butt. I don't know. But that's part of the concerns of GMOs, is that these things spread. And this is why finally Monsanto, the big company with the glyphosate, is finally starting to kind of crash and burn, because people are realizing the damage that they've done. There's countries that are burning their seed. Monsanto gave Haiti seeds to try to help and regrow stuff. Haiti said no. So here's a country who's starving, but they were smart enough to know that they didn't want it. Because you have the GMO corn, which is one of the things that we're concerned with our belly. What they did is they put in there an element that when the bug that eats the corn, that is what's killing the corn and ruins the crop, when that bug eats it, it explodes their stomach and they die. And so that's why you can go and you can spray all the glyphosate, all the Roundup and stuff you want over it, and it doesn't touch it. But if that bug eats that corn, its stomach blows up, so then the bug either dies or it learns it doesn't want to eat that. You're eating that corn. What do you think it's doing to your stomach? I can guarantee you they haven't tested it on your stomach. But you wonder why when you eat corn or corn chips or corn anything, because corn starch is put in a lot of stuff to thicken things too, and you wonder why you can't lose that last 10 pounds, or you get that little pooch of a belly, or you just get stomach aches or irritable bowel. Well, probably because you're eating this GMO corn and it's treating you like it's treating that bug. So it's important to look at these labels and to consider maybe not doing GMO as well. So TBHQ is a really long word, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it because I sound goofy when I do. But it's a chemical that you will find a lot in the movie popcorn. And you'll find it in your microwave popcorns, and you'll find it in peanut butters, chocolates, pastries, biscuits, frozen pizza. And it's a really dangerous chemical, and it's something that you don't want, and it's something that you don't need. You can easily make products that don't have it, but it's cheap. And so that's why they use it and why they put it in these buttery things. So every time you go to the movie theater and you eat that big tub of popcorn, you're eating this product that is known to create childhood behavioral problems. It's known for stomach cancer. It's known to create and promote different allergies, which is why they think some of, why I was little, my friends didn't have peanut allergies, right? It wasn't a big deal. Now it's everywhere. Why is it? It's a great question, why is it? And this is a real reason to think about what is it doing to our bodies? What are all of these chemicals setting off in our bodies? And then artificial sweeteners. We all know they're bad, but yet we all keep drinking our Diet Cokes and our Diet Pepsis and our Diet Mountain Dews, and pop is bad to begin with and full of a bunch of other chemicals that we don't need. But it's in, anything, again, this is where the labeling becomes, tricky, right? Where it's like all natural or low fat, and well, it's low fat because there's these artificial sweeteners in it, or sugar-free something. Sugar-free does not equal healthy, does not equal better. And it actually often causes the opposite because it's tricking your brain now. It's going back to the beginning of this, where that nutritional wisdom is coming in, and you end up eating more because your body is still looking for something that it hasn't gotten. You've put food in your mouth, but your body's like, no, that's not it. Why isn't it reacting the way I'm expecting it to? And you start eating more, and you start drinking more. So you're actually better off drinking a regular Coke, a regular Pepsi, than you are a diet one. It's just not good for you. So these artificial sweeteners and all of the different things that you can find them in that you don't think about, in your toothpaste, your mouthwashes, cough syrups, your yogurts, all of these different things. These artificial sweeteners are everywhere, and they come under a ton of different names. Most of them xylitol is probably the newest one, that it's a sugar alcohol that a lot of people are kind of taught to think, oh, this is better, it's not aspartame or saccharin or anything like that, but it actually has its own issues as well, and it also affects your gut health, and it messes with your blood and the sugar levels that are in your blood, and so that's where a lot of the issue with diabetes is coming into play. It's a huge thing, and so again, you're just better off skipping all the stuff. If you're going to eat something with sugar, just use sugar. And think about how much of that you actually need to put in your body, because you really don't need that much. And then, just to kind of finish some of this stuff off, a lot of what we were just talking about with Monsanto and the glyphosate and all the pesticides and the herbicides, and why do we do organically, is because, well, they're also killing off our bees, right? We're having a huge issue with bees. We're having a huge issue with monarch butterflies. All of these insects are dying because of the foods that we're choosing to eat. So we're also hurting our environment at the same time as hurting ourselves. So this is what would happen if we end up with not having enough bees to pollinate all of the stuff we need. You go on a picnic and while you're just eating that grass-fed beef, well, I'm hoping that's at least grass-fed that's up there. But there's no tomatoes, there's no peppers, there's, none of that stuff happening. Your peanut butter and jelly sandwich is completely gone. There's no peanut butter and there's no jelly because there's no fruit and there's no peanut trees that are happening. Your tortilla chips are going to be pretty plain because there's no avocados, there's no salsa. There's your salad, you're not going to have anything in there to even do a healthy salad. So all of these healthy foods that we're trying to eat aren't even going to be able to happen if we continue to allow the other part of this to happen with all the pesticides and the herbicides. And so you vote with your dollar. Every time you buy something is telling these companies, you look at that map, so Pepsi, Cola, or Coca-Cola, and Nestle, and General Mills, all of these companies, they all have branches now of organic food companies. So, whether it be Annie's or, I'm going to mind blank on some of the other names of them, but there's a lot of the different organic companies. They see the money that's being made in there, and they all want a part of it. So they get it, they hear where we're spending our money, and they're starting to panic, and they're starting to create their own stuff. So keep doing what you're doing, and keep buying healthier foods, and it'll get easier, and some of this stuff will start to get off the shelf if we keep making better choices. But there's my screen go.
There you go.
And then quickly just, is
Same thing.
it the cord? That's it?
You have to go without it.
Okay, well, I'll go without it. So your shopping list, when you go grocery shopping, there you go, it's kind of flickering there. Make a shopping list, don't go grocery shopping hungry, guarantee, right? You're gonna buy stuff that you don't want. So I do it all the time and I regret it. Shopping the perimeter is really important as well. And do your best to choose the real foods when you're shopping. And if you can, there are coupons and stuff. If you are an Amazon Prime member and you go to Whole Foods and you have their app, you save an extra 10% on top of what's already on sale. So you can shop organically cheaper. But again, I know that I pay more in food probably than the average person does, but I know I'm paying less in Dr. Copays than the average person does. So there's a balance that can happen there. And then, of course, reading your nutrition labels. And then I wanted to just give you a quick, this won't show because I didn't print this one out. Anyways, have you heard of the Dirty Dozen, right? Yeah, and then the Clean 15. So again, to help you save money when you're shopping, these are things that you can choose. So strawberries are the absolute worst. They find, no matter after you've washed them or done whatever to them, there's still 32 different pesticides and herbicides that are stuck on that tiny little strawberry that you eat. How many of them, right? Because they are really good and tasty. But if you're going to get something that's organic, those are key ones. And again, Costco is a great place to go shopping at for organic fruits and vegetables. You can save a lot of money at Costco. And let's see. Yep. So sweet potatoes, celery, apples are a really big thing. And then there's the buy local. When you buy local, usually it's better, but still not always. So it's always helpful to ask the farmers at these farmer markets, what are they spraying on their vegetables and their fruits and such? How are they growing things? Because a lot of places can't afford the organic label. It's a big process to get certified as organic. And so these smaller places, they do everything right, they just can't afford that label, so ask them. And if that's the case, then support them. Go to your farmer's market and help them and be supportive and know that they're not picking things that aren't ready to be picked and shipping them halfway across the country to get to you, and then eventually they're ripe by the time they come to you. So you can definitely save money at farmers markets and talk to people and get to know where your food's coming from, and the same goes for meat. We have a lot of farms around here. We're fortunate enough to live in the area that we live in, that there are really good farms that have their own beef and have their own chicken and pork and eggs and such. And so get to know your local people and ask what they're feeding their animals and see if that's something that's good for you. So are there any questions?
I was just going to say, like,
How does
talking
rice
to...
fit in on this?
I'm sorry, how does rice fit in all this?
Yeah.
Rice is tricky. You want to do organic rice if you can, because rice has a lot of arsenic in it, and that becomes, that's one of the biggest issues that's out there right now that hasn't really been worked out. So a lot of the rice that comes from China, their water is so polluted that's the problem. So, and this is a problem too with how the US works. So now you can have organic chicken, but it's then shipped to China to be processed and cut and packaged, and then it's shipped back here to be sold. So one, this chicken is flying halfway across the world, so how safe and where is that bacteria coming and going from, right, when they're doing that? What water are they rinsing and stuff their chicken with now that is organic? So it might have been raised organically, but now it's being processed in a country that has different laws than we do. And this is what's happening with rice. So I don't know what a good answer is for rice. I guess I just don't eat a lot of it because I don't know. Even if you buy organic, I'm not so certain that there's still not arsenic in it. So.
My nephew in California, he's an adult, he has been organic buying, certified organic, and he always goes to market. And over the years, he's gotten to, he talks to everyone that he might potentially buy from, finding out what their practice is and everything. And on top of that, he gets to know people. And, you know, that's great too. So,
Yeah, it creates a great community of like-minded people, right? Because everybody that's within that community and that farmer's market, we're all kind of out for the same thing of trying to, you know, it's not just a thing about keeping us healthy, it's about keeping our planet healthy and doing the right thing with, because organic, besides the fact of what it's doing for you, they're putting back into the soil. This is part of the problem with like chickens nowadays, right? If you have a non-organic chicken, and they grow about like 6 weeks before they slaughter the chicken and turn it and get them and turn it into meat for us. And so they're growing a chicken in 6 weeks, where it used to be back in like the 40s, it would take up to 12 weeks or so to grow a chicken. And it still wouldn't be that big, but it would be full of flavor. So for people who are like, oh, this chicken soup doesn't taste like my grandma used to make, it doesn't, because that chicken isn't what your grandma used to have. It's a different kind of a chicken. Broccoli today is not the same broccoli as it was 50 years ago. It has less minerals and nutrients in it. Why? Because our soil is depleted. Our soil doesn't have that in there. We showed this last week. We talked about you are your environment, right? Well, your food is the environment in which they grow in. So if it's not growing in healthy soil, if it's not being grown around healthy air, it's going to have less and less nutrients and minerals in it itself, and it won't be the product that you wanted it to be or that it was 50 years ago. You can take clams and grow them in different waters, and the clams will taste different based on what their environment is. And so when you go to these clam bars and stuff, or the mussel bars that are all, you know, kind of the trendy thing right now, and you want to know, like, well, what's the difference between, there's like 6 of them here, how can they all taste different? They're clams. Well, one was grown in this kind of an environment, one was grown in this, one was grown in that, and they're made to taste differently. So the same goes with food.
Is the Dirty 12 dirty because they're difficult to clean? Or I'm surprised to see like potatoes and tomatoes on the Dirty 12.
The potatoes are because of the soil that they're grown in, because the soil is so full of chemicals, and but all of these are dirty because of the products that are used to help them to grow.
I see.
So
Not
whether
because
it's
they're difficult to clean in the sink.
Right, well, you can't clean them in a sink. You know, it's just like, I did this experiment with my son for science class, where it's kind of like what you do with the carnations, right? You would take white carnations and you would put food coloring in the water and you'd watch it, you know, soak up, and your carnation, which is white, is now red. Well, the same thing goes when we did celery. So we put celery in water, we let it sit for a day or two, and next thing you know, the celery is red, the celery is purple, you know, whatever colors we use. Well, that's what happens with your food. And so I told him, like, take it under the sink and wash it. I even used the special pesticide remover spray and stuff that I have for other stuff, and I had him wash it. It didn't come out, right? It's literally in the plant is what made it. And so that's more what this is talking about. You can wash it all you want, it becomes a part of it.
So what Dirty 12 means, those are the ones you should prioritize buying organic. If you're only going to buy some things organic, buy those.
Yeah, you would prioritize those, which unfortunately for me, those are most of the things that we eat.
That's what everybody eats.
Yeah, exactly, so, sorry.
Some of it is the pesticide. I tell my patients, you can't wash a pesticide off because it does not come off in a thunderstorm. And the foods that have a thick skin on them or a coating on it that you take off are safer. And so that's kind of a easy rule of thumb to think about it. It's not perfect, but I think if you're going to take an avocado, you don't eat that. You're going to take a pineapple, you don't eat that part of it. But if you're going to take an apple, you eat the whole thing. So by and large, the things that are grown in tropical areas have much thicker peels on them because they have such big bugs down there, and that protects them. And so the pesticides don't go in. Even I don't buy organic bananas.
Oh, no.
You'll peel all that off. But I would not eat an apple that wasn't organic. I would, you know, I don't buy organic oranges, for example, unless I'm going to grate the orange or the
Yeah, we do
lemon.
that. Yeah, I'll use regular lemon, but if I'm going to zest the lemon,
If I'm going to zest it, I buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to support all that you've been saying, I went organic years and years ago, noticed amazing improvement in my health. Then about 15 years ago, I had to go gluten-free, and I've been having a lot of health problems before that. And again, within 5 or 6 days, it was like I had a different body. Then, this is really confusing, about 6 years ago, I had, out of the blue, started developing this terrible asthmatic symptoms. Went to an allergist, and he told me, again out of the blue, that I had stage 4 COPD, which made no sense whatever. I had genetic testing, it didn't make any sense. I went to see my acupuncturist, and she and I put our heads together, and she said, well, why don't you go on the Candida diet? It's really rough, but if it's here, don't forget the Candida can grow in any dark, moist place in the body, including here. It was hard. I went on the Candida diet. Within 4 days, I put away my inhaler. I mean, I'm supposed to be dead by now, and it's just remarkable.
Yeah. To me, if all else fails, look at your nutrition before you let your doctor give you a prognosis of something. I mean, it's always worth at least trying, because if anything, at least, you know you've exhausted all aspects of things. But, I mean, that video, I think, speaks volumes of showing. And what did that hurt? That was 4 days of him eating some, maybe some salads and some different, vegetables and fruits, but look at how better he felt. So what could go, you can't lose by trying that part of it. Yeah.
Would organic apples move them from dirty to clean?
Would they what?
I see apples up there under 12.
The dirty 12, he's saying if you bought our organic dirty
It would be
12,
clean.
then it would be better than the dirty 12.
Well, yeah, if they're just saying the dirty 12, that those are the things you should buy organically if you are going to be making a choice.
Yeah. If I read this right, number 4 is apples?
Yeah.
Okay, so organic apples would make it a clean apple then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these are actually in the order in which they're most, they have the most pesticides on them. So these aren't just a random order that they're in. Strawberries are the dirtiest. Yeah, spinach is the second worst. So they're in the order for a reason. So, all right, well, I hope that this sheds some light on some things for you. If you have any questions? Thank you.
Well, we can take it somewhere that's slow.
All righty, thank you.
You buy it in the store, unless you are, you have to go through a whole bunch of stuff, growing apple trees, and clean soil, to become certified. If you just say it's organic, that doesn't always mean you're certified.
The one that's called the granary, you actually grind it yourself.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure they test the ground. I already said there's if there's spray, it's going into the dirt. If it's bad. And the apple. But I don't know how to figure that out. Oh, I've heard of it. I've heard of it from my family. They buy all, my brother and his family, they buy all organic. Yeah, so you can. Not if it was a certified organic farm by the government, certified, it's supposed to be clean of all pesticides and pesticides. Yeah, that's all.
I was going to put a lot of them there.
Well, and they have to have their certification, but who knows? I think if you're better, your chances are better if an organic, certified organic. They're really the best. Just from what they do. Yeah, so. But don't. You are.
Okay, all right.
I like the oatmeal that said it
Not being.
was strawberries and cream.
And things have just gotten worse, I think, as it's grown up. More
Yeah, exactly. So are we good for tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
Yep. corn. I have some vanilla.
Oh,
Yeah. So I leave it all the time.
I mean, more pretty much non-food
Things to another.
and beer.
Yeah.
And so you're picking a lot of vegetables and everything else.